differentiation between whatever religion you were or spirituality. You know what I mean?
I always thought that religion was like the structures and the rules and the you have to do this and you have to do that. And to me, spirituality was that place of really finding your own connection with Creator, Spirit, God. And I always thought that spirituality was that where you have to build your own connection instead of like the priest, like in, like a church telling you, this is how you need to view God. Spirituality is that discovery of like that connection that you have with spirit already that comes from the place of your heart. And I think that it's emphasized, especially like through prayer and meditation and, building your own, relationship, not having anybody else dictate like how it should be, but your own relationship. And to me, that's more spiritual.
Yeah, to me too. I don't think I even came into that though until much later. Like I was in my 20s or something like that. I think when it first started, like that word came up and it was somehow like not about any church. And
Yeah,
it's about
exactly.
yourself. you know I think over time though it's grown too, because I looked that word up once and there was something like in 1970 something 1970s the word became used more often, and it has like skyrocketed over the last 30 some years or whatever. It's skyrocketed that more and more people are using the word spirituality. So I don't think it was just me as a being a dumb kid or whatever, but um, just learning over time that there is a difference between religion and the structure of the church and your personal connection.
I feel like I came by it early on because I started meditating when I was 21.
Nice.
I will never forget the experience that I had where I just felt such a close connection with God that I never felt like in church or,
Mhm.
like some priest or some, religious person, telling me about things. It was such a divine connection where I just felt like that spark of God within me. I felt like one with all that is. And I'll never forget that experience when I finally, like reached that point in meditation where I was like, I want some more of this.
That's funny that you should say that, because I don't think I knew anything about meditation until my 20s. And I was at, I don't know, like a university or something in their like food court. And they had a little place over in the corner where a guy was offering a guided meditation. And I thought, what's this about? So, and I was in my 20s the first time I even heard that word too, meditation. That's
I, I was always like a different kind of kid. I was always like what I call a seeker. I was always seeking out information since was a teenager because
yeah.
there's certain things that just didn't make sense. They didn't add up and they're like, I can't find all my answers like in a religion. So I sought to find answers elsewhere. And so I just
Yeah.
studied a lot of different things along the years where it's like, like meditation, prayer, even things like past lives. And I studied Edgar Casey. I started reading like an Edgar Casey book when I was 18 because I wanted to find out more about those answers. I wanted
Yeah.
to know, like this can't be all there is. It's like there's
Yeah.
got to be more to this life than that.
I had a little group of friends. We used to sit around. It was like right at the end of high school. So senior year, just after graduating, that little time frame in there. And we'd always get together and just sit around the table and chat about it, because there were so many what seemed to be contradictory things and things that you were taught that didn't make sense. That was the same kind of, like you were saying, the seeking things out, but I was doing it with other people. Like, what do you know about anything? And nobody, I mean, none of us really knew anything about anything, but we all had similar questions. And it wasn't until probably, I think I was 26, I got the job at the television station, and the art director brought me a book in, and he said, take this book home and read it, and when you get done you bring it back, I'll give you another one. And that was my introduction to Edgar Casey and Ruth Montgomery and whatnot. And then that spiraled into all these other authors and lectures, and spirituality means entirely something different to me now.
I'll never forget when I worked as a public school educator. So I was working elementary school and I was teaching first grade. And it was my second year of teaching. And I was walking my kids to lunch just like I did every day. Usually, like first graders, they like to hold your hand. And
Mhm.
so I had little Jessica. She grabbed my hand, and my hand started just like heating up, but it wasn't a sweaty kind of heat. It was just like a weird energy heat. I looked down at her and I said, "Is my hand getting hot?" And she looked up at me like, "Yeah." And then I'll never forget, I released her hand and I thought, okay, that's just weird. She grabbed it again and my hand started doing the same thing. And I thought, this is just weird. It's just like this healing, like intense energy that's flowing through my hands that I never felt before. And like again, religion didn't have the answers to that, like
Yeah.
in looking into that. So I looked into, like, well, what is this energy? What does it do? It's like, and I found out that it's like a healing energy that was just naturally flowing through my body. And so I thought, like, you got to do something with this. So I had to go through a whole process of figuring out like what it is. Why do I have this, like energy flowing through my body? And it was a wild, like experience. And this happened like in my early 20s. It just started, like awakening. And that was like I consider all part of my spiritual awakening
Uh-huh.
to meditation, the connection with God, like opening up my healing abilities and so forth.
After I met this guy at the television station, he introduced me to the local Spiritual Frontiers group. And within that group, I met someone specifically that held classes. And that's where I started learning about healing. So they practiced, though. They got together every week and we practiced things like psychometry and healing. And over the years of being with those ladies, there were all kinds of different healing modalities that came through. It does change your perception around spirituality a lot, because as I learned from these ladies, then spirituality became a whole nother thing to me. It was constantly drawing me in. Have you felt like that?
Oh, absolutely. Because it started off with like, learning about ACRYLICS and meditation and prayer, and then it evolved to finding all different kinds of modalities. And then I was part of a group that, like they did dream interpretation. And then I
Nice.
also had like this interesting experience where the lady that did the dream interpretation, and she had like groups at her house in Virginia Beach. And there was one time where she had this guru that came, like he studied in India, and it's like he offered session at his house and like deepened, like things even further. It's like they channeled people and so forth and was able to give information from like a higher source. And I thought that was just really cool and interesting.
Are you originally from Virginia Beach area?
No, I'm actually originally from Bay City, Michigan area.
Okay. And then you moved out to Virginia Beach, which was right in the area where Edgar Casey, he has some sort of a institute.
Headquarters there. They
Is
have
that?
what they call the Association for Research and Enlightenment.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that was it.
I actually moved down there because I needed a job. um, so at the time, my husband was he wanted to be a police officer, so he got a job down there first, and then I followed as far as getting a job as a teacher, and so we both ended up there. And then I got involved in the Search for God groups. So I got started with that. And so was, had a support system with that. And then, like things kind of evolved. And I was just like during that time period where I was teaching and, like I would get involved with different, like classes and groups, like along with the Edgar Casey Association.
Hmm.
And, like it evolved. And then there was one point in time, about 10 years ago, that I was slowly making my way towards, doing like psychic readings. And I really didn't want to do it as a public person because I worked as a school teacher. Like, like how can you be a psychic and then be a school teacher? It's like, it just doesn't seem like it matches up.
Yeah.
I was, like really defining my skill sets as a psychic. And And so I worked at the Cosmic Chameleon, but didn't have, there wasn't a whole lot of traffic there, and I felt safe to be able to, like get my feet wet with there. And and I, pretty much called it good. But then I had a friend that said, if you don't step up and, give people the message that they need to receive, then they're gonna have to find it elsewhere. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't be a slacker. I gotta
I can't be a slacker.
I can't do that. I can't be a slacker.
Oh, that's
Well,
cool.
took our words to heart, and the next day, I went into the ARE, and, I knew just who to talk to. I went to that person, and I said, "I'm Susan Harvey, and I would like to have an interview, to be a psychic at one of your psychic fairs." And she's like, "Sure. How about, 2 days from now?" And I'm like, "Okay." And so I went in 2 days later and I interviewed, well, I didn't interview, they interviewed me, but it's like I did 4 different psychic readings for like the store manager, the person that's in charge of the psychic, fairs, and another person that does the marketing. And so I did 4 readings that day, and they were pleased with the readings, and they're like, "Can you be in the next psychic fair?" And so I said, "Sure." And so then I got my feet wet with that. The interesting thing is that when I did that, they put under my name, they put psychic and medium.
Oh,
And which was interesting because at that point in time, like I didn't really talk to dead people or anything like that. But when they put that title medium, it's almost like it opened the gateway for, people,
yeah.
like occasionally dead people would come through and reading, and it's like I would, like pass on the message, which I thought was interesting that, once you put that title on, it opens the door up, it opens up a gateway. But I had a lot of fun, and I gave a lot of interesting messages to people, like, like along the years, like when I was working at the ARE. So I would do the shows, and then it evolved to an angel class, how to connect with your divine angels. And then I also did a medium group, which was really interesting because I came across this skill set that I didn't know I had. I go to this medium group, and I'm thinking like, there's nobody going to be showing up. It's on a Wednesday. It's in the middle of the week. It's 2 hours long. Who's going to show up to this? I go in there and I get there right on time, and I look up and I'm like, there's like 30 people there.
Oh, oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, oh my gosh, for my first time doing like a medium group. So I set my stuff down, sat on the stool, and I said, well, let's get started, shall we? And I just dove into it, and I started giving messages. And it was interesting because, like, when sometimes when you're talking to people that have passed, they kind of give you like certain signs, and to tell other people. And so
Mhm.
this one person that had passed over, she was trying to tell me that one of her best things that she made was sweet potato pie, and I could actually taste it. And so I'm
Oh,
like describing
nice.
how it tastes to this person, and describing like your aunt, this is what she did. It's like, she used to make this sweet potato pie, and they're like, yes, that's it. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's nice how when you're traveling down this road and learning more about yourself and expanding in that way, that you bring all of the things that you've ever done into the mix. Like you're teaching, you went into that room and just started off, but all those years of teaching helped you do that in
Oh,
that moment,
definitely,
you know?
definitely. And so I just went into teacher mode, like when I got up in front of the class, and I was just like surprised, like, wow, there's a lot of people here.